Okay, welcome again to another episode of the 11th annual Transforming Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. It is presented by Northeastern State University, and we have sessions from now till the end of Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. I'm your moderator, Bob Hale. As a reminder, all of our sessions are closed caption. To view the captions, simply click on the closed caption icon on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see the handiwork or finger work of Michelle, our captioner. Today's session is giving first generation students the tools they need to succeed. We have with us Joe Scazzafava, or something like that. He's a professor of science at Thomas College. And we have with us Debbie Cunningham, who's the Vice President of Student Success at Thomas College in wonderful Waterville, Maine. So let me turn it over to Joe and Debbie.
Oh, hello, this is Joe Scazzafava. There we go. I'm a professor of science here at Thomas College, and we're excited to be presenting at Northeastern State University's virtual conference. This is my 15th year teaching here at Thomas College. In addition to teaching my usual full semester courses, I've taught 1-week intensive courses on in the EDGE program for 9 years now. And I also teach intensive courses through our Maymester and Early Start programs. I'm going to be talking about how to design and implement an intensive course. But first, I'm going to turn the program over now to Dr. Debbie Cunningham, our Vice President for Student Success, to tell you more about our program.
Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Debbie Cunningham. Thank you, Joe. Just a little background on Thomas College. Thomas College is a private, non-sectarian, liberally selective institution. We serve about 1,000 students at the undergraduate and master's level. And as a college, we have a proud tradition of addressing the social mobility of our students. More than half of our students are identified as first generation. 78% come from Maine. Those of you who are familiar with Maine, we are in northern New England and experiencing some of the challenges of rural America. But nonetheless, in 2017, Money Magazine ranked us 23rd in the nation for adding value to our students' degrees. The EDGE program, which Joe and I will be sharing about, began in 2010 through a pilot program was funded through the Council of Independent Colleges and the Walmart Foundation. So we'd like to thank those initial funders for giving us the seed money to start the project. We initially started with capacity for 25 students, and that at times has grown as large as 75 students. At this point, since the program began, we've served over 700 students in the project. I like to start with the outcomes so that if you want to know, so that's great that you know the background and our history, but what are we actually accomplishing with our students? For me, that's really important. So you can see that we see boost at the first year retention rate level, at the 4-year graduation rate level, and at the 6-year graduation rate level. So we're really proud to see that students who participate in the program, they give us their time and focus and energy, that they're seeing better outcomes for themselves long term. When we started the project, we really had first generation students in mind. Not that that's hard at Thomas College to start with that, because if you're thinking about a Thomas College student, most likely you are thinking about a first generation student. But we identified 4 key components that we wanted to include in the project. And we wanted to make sure that as we did that, we were thinking about our first generation students and that we were thinking about doing both with and for the students. It's very important that we're not just doing to or for our students, but that we're doing with, and they're joining up with us and going through that journey together, because that's when we're gonna get the most growth with them. So throughout the presentation, we'll talk about each of these components, that core course that is really the anchor of the project. And Joe's gonna really spend some time from the faculty perspective talking about that course. On the tutoring front, we embed tutors peer tutors directly into the course, and then also they're a key part of our evening programming with the students. We have a series of evening and weekend workshops we do with the students, intentionally supporting them. And then they experience their initial kind of intro to academic coaching during the program, but then they have the benefit of academic coaching throughout their first year at Thomas. So it's not just the experience they have in the intensive in those first few days, but it extends beyond that as well. When we looked at those components and we thought about our first-gen students, we really wanted to make sure that we were addressing their academic needs, their social needs, and their financial needs. So in terms of the academic features, where we're really focused on our first-generation students, the things that we really value in the project and we're really intentional about is making sure that they have early contact with really committed instructors. And I know you're going to get to hear from Joe about the instructional aspect of this, but this is my opportunity to say to any administrator that happens to be listening, nothing is more important in this project, in a project like this, than having the right instructor in the classroom, the instructor that understands the context that the students are coming from, the context they're bridging the student to, and how to support the students through that program. So I'm really fortunate to have Joe as a good partner on that, and several other good faculty partners throughout the experience. But if you don't do anything else right, you've got to get the class right, because all the other pieces really anchor around that class. We wanted them to, our first generation students, to have an early connection with academic coaches and peer tutors. And one of my favorite things to watch happen is when they quit saying, I'm going to see my academic coach, and they start to say, I'm going to see Ashley. And they stop saying, I'm going to see the accounting tutor. They say, I'm going to see Sean. And that we know that they have transitioned in their own minds to a relationship with that individual that's supportive and appropriate in nature, and rather than seeing themselves as engaging somebody in a particular role. We also like that they get to really bank those first on-campus credits. So the classes that we offer through all our intensive programming do count toward their graduation. So their classes otherwise they would be taking during a long semester. So it immediately moves them toward graduation. And that's really important from us, so that we know that especially our first generation students at the end of that fall semester or their first semester with us are going to be on track for graduation. And for us, that on-time graduation really is defined as that 4-year mark. When we looked at workshops for ourselves in the evenings, what did we want to make sure we did to address academic needs? One of the pieces that constantly bubbles up for us, and what we hear from instructors in the classroom throughout the year, is that students really need to understand how to use a textbook. And so we make sure that we're building some of those components into workshop elements during the project in the evenings. And that we're also thinking long-term with that student. What did we learn about them, and what did they learn tell us was important to them in their academic experience through EDGE, and then how do we build that into an academic coaching plan for them that lasts for that entire first year. So in addition to the academic features, we also wanted to think about what are the social features of the program that would support first generation students. The one that comes immediately to mind for all of us is that they really build a cohort. So they really have that experience, and I know Joe's going to talk a little bit about that from the classroom experience, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But also we intentionally pull the peer leaders, the peer tutors that are being embedded into the courses. We intentionally pull them from previous cohorts. So as we're getting ready for for EDGE 2020, one of my staff members is going to Joe saying, who did you have in your last class that you'd really like to have back for a tutor? Because that role modeling component is really important, especially for our first gen students. The campus explorations component is also important. It's important that the students are really comfortable on campus. They know where things are. They know how to get from A to B, even to the point where we've seen them kind of serve as kind of mini student ambassadors. Once the other students, the rest of the inner class comes and is showing up there, like, let me show you where student financial services is. Let me show you where the health center is. And that's really great. We also do service projects. We've had years where we haven't done service projects, and I think we missed it from a staff perspective. I think it's hard for me to say the students missed it because they didn't know what they were having, but we tell a difference in the way that the students engage with one another. And also for us at Thomas, as part of our Guaranteed Job program, students are required to submit service hours, and these students are allowed to submit those hours as part of the guaranteed job program. So we know we're not just moving them toward graduation, we're also moving them toward that guaranteed job requirement. And finally, we tried to get a few follow-up events throughout the semester or throughout the academic year in. It's a little tough to get everybody pulled back together, but sometimes they're really small. But when we are able to do that, the students tell us they really enjoy that, kind of revisiting their EDGE buddies. So finally, the financial features that we wanted to make sure we were addressing up front, we tell the students that there's no additional cost to participate. This was an important feature for us because we know that frequently our students, so the majority of our students are eligible for Pell aid, and so we know that they don't have a lot, they're not flush with extra cash, and so adding to that bill was not a way to convince them to participate in this program. So that's just a battle I'm willing to fight every year if I have to make sure that the students who would most benefit from the program are in the program and they're not making a decision based on finances. But we also know that most of our students arrive at Thomas College with a fairly significant work history from high school because they're often either paying some of their own bills or they're contributing to their household income through those high school jobs. So we wanted to make sure that students weren't trying to decide, do I do this or do I work? And so to offset that, that drive for work or that financial stress they might experience, even just by taking time off, we make sure that we take care of at least one of their books, and ideally their most expensive books, so we immediately take some financial burden off. We also use that as an opportunity to convince them to stay in touch with us because we do that for the fall semester, but we also do it for the spring semester. It's a pretty low cost way for us to be able to get that student to buy into staying in touch with us through the fall semester. And finally, through the workshops that we provide, again, through the evening and weekends. We do workshops for financial aid eligibility, how to take care of your promissory note, and those other kind of toe stumpers that can really trip up a first-generation student if they don't have those things taken care of and would cause them to possibly kind of give up along the way. So in the end, what we really want to see is something like this. We want to see that our students have progressed to graduation, they are ready to graduate, and that Thomas College has fulfilled their the promise that we've made to them, and that they're living out their potential. So that's it on from the administrative front. I'm going to turn things over back to Joe because he's really going to speak from that instructor role. And I think it's really important for the faculty members in the group to hear what that's like. But also administrators, I'd encourage you to listen up because Joe gives some great advice along the way.
Hi. Just to reiterate, one of the things that Deb mentioned, one of the things that we have tracked on this that has really motivated us to want to share this with other colleges was the outcomes that we saw. It was an 11% increase in the retention rate, an 8% increase in our 4-year graduation rate, and that 13% increase in our 6-year graduation rate. These were the numbers that we're tracking. One of the things that I saw, and I have seen over the years in this, is other benefits. Seeing these people come in as new college students just out of high school and seeing them develop that self-confidence over that 1-week period is really remarkable.
Yeah.
Do I hear questions? It sounds like was someone asking a question?
People need to mute their microphones, or the moderator needs to mute other people's.
Oh, okay. So people can hear me okay? Okay. So the other things that I've seen is the students really develop. It's amazing to see them develop their self-confidence. As Debbie was saying, a week after they finish this program, they're showing other students around. They develop friendships that continue. People have met their close friends in EDGE. They become roommates later, and on Facebook, you see them, they're friends years after they graduate from here. The connection aspect is really important. They form a connection with each other, but also to the professors, to the tutors and mentors, academic coaches. They really become connected to the campus. One piece that I've noticed over the years, we have not tracked this, but many of us have noticed that these students rise to
Yeah, okay.
within a short time. They are leading groups. They are becoming members of our student center.
Rename your sign.
Why do I have to rename it?
Because that's what they asked us to do here. Valjean at Three Rivers.
Uh,
Joe, go up to the top and mute them.
what's that?
You have to mute them. You all.
Go up to the top and mute. That mutes my audio.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay.
All right, well, if somebody has a question, just speak up. I hear voices in the background. I'm not sure whether people are asking a question or not. So the thing I want to talk about is putting together a course if you're looking to add a course similar to what we're doing. These are things that, that I thought about. One is, what is the subject matter? What kind of courses are going to work? What type of assessments are going to work in this intensive format? And should you create a course? Should you come up with a course to fit specifically into this type of format, or convert one over? And one that a piece that was very important to me when I was first asked to teach is balancing academic rigor with the probability of success. With this type of program, we really want the students to succeed, but at the same time, we have to maintain academic rigor for the courses. In terms of subject matter, at first, 9 years ago, I was concerned about what type of subjects would work in this type of format. And what I've found over the years is all sorts of course subjects. Philosophy, cellular biology, general psychology, marketing, STEAM courses, computer courses, math courses. All of these have worked well. The students have got a lot out of it. The professors have felt that they work. So really, our experience has been you can teach a course in most any discipline in this type of format. Again, one of the things I did before doing this presentation is I spoke with other professors who have taught different courses, used different types of formats, and really everything seems to work. We have professors who have taught these types of courses who have given tests. I've done one in our Maymester where I gave a test every day. Some use papers and journals. Computer programs have used applications, class participation, projects. People have used all different types of assessments, all of which have worked very successfully within this format. This is an area where there's people who feel pros and cons on both sides in terms of should you create a course specifically for this type of format, or should you convert a course over that you've already taught? And there's some pluses and minuses for this that I'll touch on. Creating a new course gives you the ability to really utilize the time that you have and the intensive nature of this. You can tailor things to utilize this framework. You can utilize long field trips that you might not have been able to work into if you're just seeing students for 15 minutes 3 times a week. You can use very long labs, extended type of investigative activities. So you could really put your course, utilize all the advantages of having this type of intensive. Now, one of the tricky parts of this is it's difficult to assess equivalency, and this has always been very important to me when I've been teaching the intensive courses, is that these courses should be worth the same amount of credits as a 15-week course. It's not a light course or an abbreviated course, but really they should be getting 15 weeks worth of work and full credit, full amount of information to warrant those credits. And so with creating a new course, it can be difficult to assess that equivalency. Now, what I tend to do, and both of these are fine, and we've had both people who created courses from scratch to fit into this and people who converted existing courses, so they both work. I tend to like converting an existing course. Advantages, you've already got your content designed, your course is already developed, you have your assessment tools that you can use. And for me, it's this clear equivalency to my standard 15-week course. So these students I know are getting from me exactly what they would have gotten over a 15-week course compressed to that 1 week. You do, and what I find is you do need to adjust for the time frame. Things that may work on a 15-week, 3 days a week or 2 days a week type of system need to be adjusted a little bit to fit into the intensive time frame. And also, you may want to adjust it to be able to utilize that extra time that you're going to have with the students in terms of amount of time during the day. So both of these have worked, and so either has some pluses and minuses, but they both worked and worked well in our experience. One of the things that I try to put into my course is I sort of view this as a college boot camp, that the primary piece is to give them the course that they're taking, whether it be psychology or philosophy or biology, et cetera. But what's important to me is thinking about these students are coming in, we're trying to give them the tools that they need. So for me, it's working the course in such a way as to deliver them the skills that they're going to need to succeed here at the college and then also later in life. And to me, critical pieces are they need to be able to get information both by reading and also listening. And so I work that into my courses where every night they have to read a certain amount, they have to glean information from that on their own to be put into both written and verbal homework for the next day. They also have to be able to listen to each other. So I really stress these skills and give them opportunity to really work these skills of both reading and listening for comprehension, and then to be able to express themselves either verbally or written. They're going to need these in their other courses. They're going to need these in life. Foster independent critical thinking so that they're not just regurgitating things. And a big piece is time management. They are working all the time and they have to be able to manage their own time. These are students that are coming from high school, perhaps didn't have a lot of experience managing their own time. If mom was there, the coaches were there. So now really giving them a situation where they have to manage their time and how they're going to spend that time most successfully. And finally, also one of the things that we see that gives them success is peers, and have that support from their peers. And this is something that the courses really build. So in terms of how we do our course schedule, this is the way we've done most of the years. We bring them in, they have courses on Thursday and Friday. They have some limited activities over the weekend. They'll have some workshops and different things, and maybe a little bit of contact regarding their course, and then finally full on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We have, on one time, done this on a Monday through Friday, and I would not, for this type of course, I would not recommend it. Our Maymester courses and some of our summer intensives will run through a Monday through Friday. This seems to work better with more experienced students, more upperclassmen. With something like this, where we're bringing in high school students and bringing them in just starting their college time, breaking it up this way, having the weekend for them to decompress really seems to work much better. This is a picture on the last day of one of my EDGE classes. And I put this in here to show you that they are not dying, they are not on life support, that they are happy and doing well. One of the things I like about this is when I get my student evaluations, one of the student evaluations that I will get almost every year, the students will say that this course is the most they've ever worked for a course. This is one of the hardest courses they've ever taken, and they've gotten a lot out of it and they love it. And as a professor, I can't think of a better evaluation I'd like to see, that they think it's, it's that hard, they put a lot of work into it, but they're enjoying it and getting a lot out of it. So that's always made me happy to see that. In terms of a class schedule, this is what their day looks like. I'll have office hours from 8 to 9. We'll have them in class with myself between 9 and 4 with a break for lunch in the middle of that. When I wrap up with them at 4, the tutors will take over and work with them from 4 to 5. I'll talk a little bit more about the tutoring in a second. They'll have a break for supper, and then workshops, and finally tutoring. And we've typically done tutoring up until 10 o'clock at night. What I usually ask the tutors to do is to work on every night they get a written assignment, which they have to submit onto Moodle. And they also have an assignment to prepare for class discussion the next day. And I asked the tutors to work with them up until 9 o'clock on their written work and to have their written work submitted by then. And then for the last hour to work on them on their class presentations, things we'll be discussing in class. Then I'll be home correcting the written work from 9 till midnight or so, sometimes later. And I'll talk with you a little bit more about that in just a second. Our tutoring and academic coaching are superb. I've worked closely with our Student Success Center over the years, and it has just served our students extremely well. They've done a great job. I would not be able to do this class without the tutors. I have tutors in the classroom who help me throughout the day, and as I told you, there's tutors in the evening after classes. These tutors, they just do a phenomenal job. I've believed in them so much. I try and maintain this in all my classes throughout the year, and encouraging the students to go to the student tutors, to utilize the academic coaches. And I've worked with our Student Success Center and put together extra credit projects where students can earn some extra credit utilizing these services, and it's been fantastic. I want to finish up at the end here by going over things that I spoke with the other professors who have taught in this program, and I asked them, what are something that you would definitely tell other professors to include, and what are things you would definitely tell other professors to definitely not do when setting up these classes. These are an assortment of things. Breaks is a big one when you have students in class for this long. You definitely have to give them some breaks, let them get up, move around, have some snacks. What I find is I tend to keep the breaks somewhat short during the first part of the week, and then lengthen them out as time goes on into the week to give them a little bit more rest. Group activities are wonderful. It gets them interacting with each other, getting to know each other better. Really helps to build that peer support. I know in our STEAM class, I don't know if you can see. Here we go. I don't know if you can see the arrow, but this picture down here is from our STEAM class. Professor Biffle has a lot of group activities and projects that he does. Myself, this one down here and outside, I try and take the philosophy class outside for at least one afternoon to get them out, and we do philosophy under the tree out there. The STEAM course also works in some good field trips. We have some competitions. This picture here of all the students staring up into the sky with what looks like sunglasses was a year when there was a solar eclipse during the time that we were teaching. So we got the students out there. The budget included the solar sunglasses so they could look at that, and we had the students outside witnessing a solar eclipse as part of their breaks. One thing that many professors mentioned as something worth definitely having is backup plans. Unlike your 15-week course, you don't have a lot of time to regroup things. You want to make sure that if something doesn't work, you've got something that you can pull right out and plug in there. There's not a lot of time for revisiting or coming up with new ideas. So most all the professors said you want to have some stuff in your back pocket to pull out if a lab doesn't work or if a particular discussion topic isn't working. Definitely have those backup plans there. Excuse me. In terms of things that people would definitely say not to do, the thing that rose to the top of our list is do not let anyone upgrade your computer or put new software in it just before you teach. One of our worst stories was we had a professor who was going to teach a math course, a computer course, a computer applications course. And she checked out the computer software. It ran perfectly on the computers. Everything seemed fine. She did this in the spring, so everything was set up ahead of time. Went home for the summer and came in the fall to teach her course. And the computers had all been upgraded to new computers, new operating systems, new software, and it would not run the software that she had checked out. And we discovered this at the last minute. And so this created probably one of our biggest challenges in trying to deliver that course. So I would say if you're going to be using the computer, particularly if you're going to use an applications course, either work or definitely work with your IT department to make sure you don't get caught at the last minute with anything like that. Untried labs, again, you don't have a lot of time to regroove and to come up with new things. So be careful with untried labs. Make sure you've tested these things out yourself. One of the other professors had said that you do not want to do a mid-course revision. You do not have the time to do any kind of major changes over. You want to have backup plans, but pretty much once you've started, it's like riding the sled downhill in the wintertime. You're going down that hill and you don't have a lot of time to stop and rethink things. If you're ordering things, be very careful with last minute orders. If things are delayed, it's not like a 15-week class where you could just swap things around and do that lab next week or the week after that. Things are running and you're going to wrap things up. In terms of your social life, basically don't have one. You are, at least when I have done these, I've been up, as I told you before, up until midnight or later doing corrections for or grading papers or work. It's not a time to have people from out of town come and visit and be spending time with you or planning things. And just remember that sleep is highly overrated. You can sleep when the course intensive is wrapped up. And as Debbie closed her section, this is what we want. We want to see students succeed, do well, graduate, and be happy with their experience here. So we wanted to leave some time for questions, in both in terms of setting up a course, but also in terms of setting up the entire program. We'd like to open this up to anyone who's out there. If people have any questions for us. There we go. Have I muted them? Do I need to unmute people? They can unmute themselves?
No, you don't need to unmute. They'll be able to unmute themselves. And of course,
okay.
they can always type in the chat window.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I'd offer people snacks, but I know that doesn't work well on the.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So do you think that these strategies are necessary and helpful also at the graduate level?
So the question, just so that we can make sure everyone has heard, the question is, would these strategies be helpful at the graduate level? So actually, we drew a lot of these from the graduate level here at Thomas. So we initially had an instructor who was teaching in the intensive format at the graduate level, Dr. Stephen Turner, and we convinced him, we asked him if he thought it would work with undergraduates, and he was wholeheartedly thought it definitely would, and so he was really our first instructor with EDGE. He has since retired and we miss him dearly, but he was really valuable in helping us to understand the things that are different between graduate and undergraduate. What we found is that the graduate students are not as open to the workshops in the evenings. They really they tend to be more independent in that way, but that they really do need an orientation before the class begins. So that's part of the intensive project for the graduate students is the day before their class starts, they get together with either our associate dean or with the instructor to really start to make sure that they are ready to go into that class and they're ready for the next day. The other thing that we found, but one of the things that we find holds true across all the populations, the snacks need to be good. And the other thing I would say that holds true across the populations for the instructors is it behooves you to find out what gets them through. And so one time Joe came to me and he said, I'm trying to eat healthier. Can we get some fruit? And I was like, on it. And the next day we had fruit for him. I have another instructor who lives and dies by Dr. Pepper, and he has Dr. Pepper every time he teaches for us. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
I like good snacks too. I get it.
Yeah, I tell people that people who work at colleges and serve at colleges are students who refuse to leave. So we get along just fine.
Yep.
Other questions?
So we have a couple of comments, questions.
Okay, do you mind reading those for us, Bob? We don't see them on our end.
Sure. I'll do the short one first. What were some of the examples of workshop titles or themes?
Great. So, so some of the workshops that students have responded really well to have included that. We don't call it how to use your textbooks. We obviously talk about it in terms of academic strategies for success and getting ready for those college level expectations. So we do a workshop primarily on how do they use that textbook. And I know it sounds very nuts and bolts, but it's important because we consistently hear from instructors throughout the academic year that is important. Financial literacy or financial aid is a key topic we make sure that we cover. We do some version of goal setting. So whether that's mindset or they don't respond as well to straightforward goal setting. They really want some sort of new spin on it. But the working with mindset they've responded well to. A really successful one we had one time was a 6-word memoir, and really getting them to think about the upcoming semester for themselves from a goals perspective, but using that tactic of a 6-word memoir to do that. And they really responded really well to that as well. One of the things we make sure we do, and I should add this, that we make sure that we bring in our director of our health services and our director of counseling services, our campus counselor, to do a face-to-face workshop with the groups, just so that they have a name and a face to put together, so that if they need to use those services, hopefully it's a little demystified for them, and they've built more of a relationship with those folks. So bringing in those outside folks, including student financial services, has been, in those workshops, has been a good tactic for us. Oh, so my staff is whispering from the sides to me. On the weekends, we make sure that we do some things to help them kind of get their bodies connected back with their minds a little bit and to de-stress a little bit. And the students love to do yoga and Zumba, and also singing bowls as a workshop is very popular with our students from a stress management standpoint. Thank you.
Do you have an example of how to use the textbook, a template, or some sort of document that you can share?
I don't have something I can share with me right here, but I've got a colleague here who's willing to come talk about this. This is Matthew Nash, who is our PLTL coordinator. So he's the one that has actually done the workshop. So I'm going to let him describe it for you.
Okay. Yes, as Debbie said, I'm Matthew Nash. And so, yeah, I've done the textbook workshop in the past, and really it's about kind of breaking it down, different reading strategies as far as chunking, or kind of looking at a text and really knowing what's important, what to remember, what's going to be important as far as class discussion the next day, or things that the professors are going to more likely to, feel is important on an exam or something. And there's just a lot of tools that are embedded in textbooks like that, but students aren't aware of them. And so we just kind of like to take some time to kind of point those out, kind of go over various strategies, some things that work for some students, those that don't work for others. But so they just kind of have a toolbox of strategies going in, and kind of know how to use a textbook effectively, and use it to find information quickly, and those sorts of things. What I was motioning to Dr. Cunningham was that I do have that presentation available that I could possibly share if needed at a later time or whatever. But that was given as an invitation to chat. So I was happy to do that. But if there's any questions about that, I can answer those now.
Great. If somebody would like to see Matthew's presentation, thank you, Matthew, for letting me put you on the spot. But if you would like to, if you'll email me, I'll put you in touch with Matthew and make sure that you guys can exchange information.
There was also a question from Ramona. I don't think you got to. What does the process look like for an individual that may have special needs? For example, hearing or visually impaired. She also says, I'm sure that your retention rates look wonderful. Have you continued to collect data from the cohorts that have graduated, say, 9 to 10 years ago? Have they continued their education? So you get like a 3-part question from Ramona.
Sure. So we have had students participate with hearing impairment or hearing loss, and we have a number of students who participate who have IEPs coming from our high schools. The key piece is to make sure that we've created an environment where the student feels comfortable early coming to us and alerting us. Our families are often good partners in this, that they will often share forward that the student is coming for for EDGE and will share with us what has worked for that student in the past. We partner with our disability services officer to make sure that we're accommodating that student appropriately. And I'm gonna let Joe talk about what it was like to have a student with a hearing impairment in his classroom as a philosophy class, and what accommodations he used and how meaningful that was for the student.
Hi, this is Joe again. Yeah, we, not just in our EDGE program, but in all our classes, are very committed to working with students that have various needs in addition to what we usually see. We had a student that did have some hearing challenges, and I would wear a transmitter, like a small microphone pack, that would transmit directly to her hearing aids. And so if I was wearing that, she would be able to hear what I was saying. It took a little remembering when to turn that on, when to turn that off, and we communicated, and it worked fine for her. She could hear what I was saying, and not just in the EDGE program, but I've had students, other students with hearing disabilities that we work with similar types of things. I had students that had cochlear implants, students with vision challenges. In our, I also teach primarily sciences. In our science lab, it's set up where we have sinks and desks and the ability for students to access our lab in wheelchairs. So not just within the EDGE program, but we really strive to make sure that students that have any type of accommodations, that we can take care of them with those.
So to the other questions in terms of have we tracked the students after graduation, we have not done that. We, given our resources, think we're doing a pretty good job tracking them to graduation, but it would be really interesting. We are aware of some of our, we're often aware of our alums because the majority of our alums will stay in Maine. And I always joke and say Maine's a small town, we know what's going on. And so it's really exciting when we do see alums. I am happy to share with you that one of the alums of one of our early cohorts is actually now our TRIO Student Support Services Director. So we see those folks not just thrive outside, but actually come back to campus and contribute and become great leaders on campus as professionals as well. So we don't have any formal tracking, but we do as a campus have a commitment to their career path, so they can come back to career services at any time. So it's a good question, and I think it's something that now I'm curious about, and I want to go see what I can find out from career services in terms of what's available. And Bob, I'm gonna ask you to forgive me. I forgot the third question.
We also have someone who asked about seeing how to use the textbook if it's available, and then a couple more questions from others.
Okay, so definitely we can, if folks will get in touch with me, I'm happy to facilitate those access to the work that Matthew's done, and we're happy to share it in the interest of the well-being of all of our students here in the U.S.
And we also have a comment from Michael who says he teaches first-year, first-term students, and instructions for e-textbooks is essential information for our students, as well as learning how to navigate the Canvas system. And then Jessica asks, what advice would you give instructors who want to make their traditional courses more accessible to first-generation students?
Okay. The thing that I find in terms of making classes, engaging students more is a couple things. One, what I find the main thing is to be excited about your topic. If you're teaching something that you're interested in, that you're excited about, that you can share your interest, your stories about that, it really engages students. If you're teaching something that's dry and that you're not that excited about, students feel that. And I find that students really respond, and frequently in evaluations will mention that the professor is really dynamic. The professor really loves this topic and comes prepared. And I think that's a big one. And to make your topic relevant to the different majors that are in your class. So when I am teaching philosophy, or if I'm teaching science, I'll look at who do I have for majors and try and select that. Well, if you're an education major, think about this, or if you're a criminal justice major, and let them know that we're thinking about what they're doing, where they're going, and ways that this topic can apply to them and to their career. And I think those two things go a long way to engaging first-gen students.
So I think the only thing I would add to what Joe is saying is, and we try to be careful here at Thomas, not conflating first-generation student with low-income student, but there is an intersection, and so we don't ignore that. And so Joe is one of several faculty members who've been very involved with using more open educational resources so that students don't have that initial barrier of book cost, and they can get those resources immediately, so they don't have a delay in order time and those kinds of things, so that they're able to get started with the class material at the same time as everyone else in the class. Having said that, the only other thing I would suggest to folks, if you're concerned about first-generation students, is building in really those active learning pieces. And we're fortunate here at Thomas that we have a Title III grant that's really promoting the use of active learning to support our students' success in the classroom. And so making sure that active learning, where that first-generation student who may be reticent about opening their mouth, may not be sure about how to engage in the classroom, that they have an opportunity and the appropriate scaffolding to engage.
I don't see any other questions at the moment.
So I think if there aren't any other questions, Bob, I'd like to thank everybody. These have been really thoughtful questions. I appreciate it. And certainly like to thank you, Bob, for taking the time to moderate this for us and to take care of getting us into the session and getting started and allowing us the opportunity to make folks aware of what we're trying to do with first-generation students here at Thomas College here in Waterville, Maine.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for attending our presentation. Thanks, Bob.
And thank you both for doing this presentation. I think you really spurred a lot of thought on it. So, okay, we'll call for closure on this. Everybody, or at least for me, have a good lunch, and I'll see you back at 1 o'clock Central Time.